Some of these conspiracies are wild, unsettling, and highly speculative. This video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion is advised. Hoop snakes are reported to be a unique species of serpent capable of grabbing their tail in their mouth and rolling like a wheel, achieving speeds of up to 60 miles per hour across flat terrain. Early American frontier journals contain detailed descriptions of these creatures, with multiple accounts describing their ability to chase humans and livestock across open prairie lands. Biological analysis of alleged hoop snake specimens has revealed unusual vertebrae formations that could theoretically allow for the extreme spinal flexibility required for wheel-like locomotion. Native American oral histories from multiple tribes across North America describe encounters with rolling serpents, often noting their distinctive hunting behavior and ability to pursue prey at high speeds. Several 19th century newspapers documented incidents of farmers and ranchers encountering these creatures, with consistent descriptions of their unique locomotion and aggressive pursuit behavior. Wildlife researchers have identified several snake species with unusually rigid tail sections that could potentially serve as an anchor point for the rolling behavior described in historical accounts. Geological surveys of areas with frequent hoop snake sightings reveal unusual circular depression patterns in the soil consistent with the described rolling motion of these creatures. Recent studies of snake locomotion have discovered that certain species can achieve brief periods of rotational movement when descending steep inclines, lending credibility to the possibility of evolved rolling behavior. The concept of angelic hierarchies comes from ancient religious texts and mystical writings, particularly Pseudo-Dionysius's De Coelesti Hierarchia from the 5th century. The structure consists of 9 distinct orders of angels arranged in 3 spheres, with each rank having specific duties and levels of proximity to God. The middle sphere includes dominions, who regulate angelic duties, virtues, who govern nature and perform miracles, and powers, who serve as cosmic warriors against evil forces. The lowest sphere contains principalities, who guide nations and large groups, archangels, who deliver important messages to humans, and angels, who serve as personal guardians to individuals. The middle sphere includes dominions, who regulate angelic duties, virtues, who govern nature and perform miracles, and powers, who serve as cosmic warriors against evil forces. The lowest sphere contains principalities, who guide nations and large groups, archangels, who deliver important messages to humans, and angels, who serve as personal guardians to individuals. Ancient texts describe specific physical characteristics for each rank, such as the cherubim having 4 faces and 4 wings covered in eyes, while thrones appear as great wheels with countless eyes. Multiple historical accounts from different cultures and time periods describe encounters with beings matching these specific descriptions, including reports from medieval mystics and modern-day near-death experiences. The mathematical precision of the hierarchy's structure, featuring repeating patterns of 3, reflects similar sacred numerical patterns found throughout nature and religious architecture. Ancient Sumerian and Egyptian texts contain references to celestial beings arranged in similar hierarchical structures, suggesting this knowledge may predate currently known religious traditions. The heirloom was a mysterious machine believed to exist in the late 18th century, supposedly capable of controlling minds through invisible rays and magnetic fields directed at specific individuals. James Tilly Matthews, a tea merchant and political activist, provided detailed technical drawings and descriptions of this device, which he claimed was operated by a group of villains in a London basement. The machine allegedly worked by combining magnetic fluids with gases extracted from the air, processing them through intricate mechanisms including brass retorts, magnetic chambers, and tobacco smoke-filled cylinders. Matthews described 7 distinct forms of assault the machine could perform, including brainsaying, the insertion of thoughts, fluid locking, the control of muscles, and lengthening the brain, the manipulation of ideas and memories. Despite being institutionalized in Bedlam Asylum, Matthews demonstrated an extraordinary understanding of pneumatic chemistry and electromagnetic theories that were cutting edge for his time period. His technical descriptions of the heirloom's components closely resembled actual scientific instruments being developed during that era, including early experiments with electricity and magnetism. Several of Matthew's political predictions and claims about government conspiracies were later verified through historical documents, lending some credence to his other assertions. The heirloom's supposed effects on its victims mirror symptoms now associated with electromagnetic field exposure, including headaches, confusion, muscle tension, and unusual sensory experiences. Modern research into directed energy weapons and magnetic brain stimulation has revealed that some of the effects Matthews described are technically possible through electromagnetic manipulation. Similar accounts of mind control machines emerged independently in other parts of Europe during the same time period, suggesting a possible shared experience or phenomenon that was interpreted through the lens of period-appropriate technology. The Grassman refers to a humanoid entity reportedly encountered in rural areas, described as being entirely composed of grass, weeds, and other vegetation, standing between 6 and 8 feet tall. Multiple sightings across the American Midwest during the 1950s and 1960s described the creature moving through fields with a distinctive swaying motion, seemingly able to blend perfectly with surrounding vegetation. Farmers have reported finding unusual patterns of flattened grass in perfect geometric shapes following alleged encounters, along with soil samples showing accelerated plant growth in these areas. The entity has been observed during both day and night, with witnesses noting a peculiar characteristic where sunlight appears to pass through its form, creating a translucent effect in its plant-based body. Agricultural workers have documented unexplained rapid growth of crops in areas where the Grassman was spotted, sometimes reporting entire fields maturing overnight. Several Native American tribes share similar legends of plant-based beings who serve as guardians of fertile land, suggesting these encounters may have historical precedent. Biological samples collected from alleged contact sites have shown unusual cellular structures that combine characteristics of both plant matter and animal tissue. During periods of drought, sightings of the entity often coincide with isolated patches of thriving vegetation, leading some researchers to suggest it may influence local ecosystems. Photography of suspected Grassman locations has revealed unusual infrared signatures that differ from both typical vegetation and animal life forms. Chemical analysis of soil samples from encounter sites shows elevated levels of growth hormones and organic compounds not typically found in natural agricultural environments.
Like this video and subscribe to Maker.
The German U-boat crocodile refers to a massive, previously unknown species of marine reptile allegedly encountered by German submarine crews during World War II in the South Atlantic waters. Multiple classified naval reports from different U-boat commanders described encounters with a creature reaching lengths of 60, 70 feet, possessing features similar to both crocodilians and prehistoric marine reptiles. The being was documented as having a distinctive elongated snout, armored plates along its back, and the ability to remain submerged for extended periods while matching the speed of submarines at cruising depth. Sonar recordings from the period contain unexplained signatures that match neither known marine mammals nor conventional submarine contacts, showing movement patterns consistent with a large reptilian creature. The being was documented as having a distinctive elongated snout, armored plates along its back, and the ability to remain submerged for extended periods while matching the speed of submarines at cruising depth. Sonar recordings from the period contain unexplained signatures that match neither known marine mammals nor conventional submarine contacts, showing movement patterns consistent with a large reptilian creature. Several U-boat crews reported the creature's ability to detect submarines at considerable distances, suggesting an advanced sensory system possibly adapted to detecting pressure changes or electrical fields in deep water. Declassified photographs from German naval archives show unusual wake patterns and surface disturbances that marine biologists have stated are inconsistent with known marine life. The creature's reported behavior of following submarines for extended periods aligns with hunting strategies observed in modern crocodilians, suggesting a possible evolutionary adaptation to deep-sea environments. Water samples collected from areas of reported sightings contained elevated levels of specific hormones typically associated with large reptilian predators. Several accounts describe the creature's ability to rapidly change depth without apparent discomfort, indicating possible specialized adaptations for deep-sea pressure changes. Post-war expeditions to the reported encounter areas have discovered unexplained bite marks on submarine wreckage that match no known marine predator but align with the described creature's dimensions. The Scape or swamp lizard man is a bipedal reptilian creature first reported in Lee County, South Carolina in 1988, standing 7 feet tall with green scaly skin and glowing red eyes. The initial encounter involved Christopher Davis, a 17-year-old who provided detailed descriptions of the creature after it allegedly attacked his car, leaving deep scratch marks in the vehicle's roof and side panels. Physical evidence from the incident included 3-toed footprints measuring 14 inches long, which herpetologists noted shared characteristics with both human and reptilian foot structures. Analysis of hair and tissue samples found at various sighting locations revealed unknown DNA sequences that showed similarities to both reptilian and primate genetic markers. Local law enforcement documented multiple cases of vehicles being damaged in ways consistent with the described creature's reported strength and claw patterns, with scratches containing traces of unknown organic material. Several witnesses have independently described the creature's unusual gait and movement patterns, which align with theoretical models of how a bipedal reptilian species might walk. Infrared cameras placed throughout the swamp have captured thermal signatures indicating a large, warm-blooded creature with a heat pattern different from known local wildlife. Environmental researchers have noted unusual patterns of animal behavior in the swamp, including instances where alligators and other predators appear to avoid certain areas where the creature has been sighted. Geological studies of the area reveal extensive underground cave systems that could theoretically support a small population of large, unknown species. Sound recordings from the swamp have captured vocalizations outside the known range of local wildlife, featuring unique frequencies that suggest a previously undocumented species. The Vietnam rock apes were mysterious bipedal primates repeatedly encountered by American and North Vietnamese troops during the Vietnam War, described as being around 5 feet tall with reddish-brown hair and displaying unusual levels of intelligence and aggression. Multiple military units reported these creatures moving in organized groups, using primitive tools, and demonstrating tactical behaviors such as throwing rocks at soldiers and coordinating their movements. Official military reports document instances where entire platoons were forced to redirect their routes due to aggressive encounters with groups of these primates, which showed no fear of gunfire or military equipment. Both American and Vietnamese soldiers independently described the creature's distinctive vocalizations, which included complex sequences of howls and guttural sounds that suggested a form of communication more sophisticated than known primate species. Physical evidence collected during the war included unusual footprints measuring 12 inches long, displaying characteristics that differed from both human and known great ape prints. Local Vietnamese folklore predating the war contains numerous references to similar creatures, known as Nguoi Rung, including detailed descriptions of their social structures and territories. Analysis of hair samples collected from reported encounter sites showed DNA structures that didn't match any known primate species in the region. Military photographers documented unusual nesting structures in the highland areas, featuring complex arrangements of branches and vines that displayed evidence of tool use in their construction. Several classified military reports describe these creatures displaying coordinated defensive behaviors, including the strategic placement of lookouts and organized retreats when confronted. Anthropologists studying the region have identified areas of the jungle where local wildlife behaves unusually, avoiding certain territories that align with reported rock ape territories. Cacodaemons and Eudaemons refer to two opposing types of personal spirit guides from ancient Greek and Egyptian mysticism that were believed to influence human behavior and destiny. Ancient texts describe Cacodaemons as dark, shadowy entities that whisper negative thoughts and destructive urges, while Eudaemons manifested as bright, ethereal beings offering wisdom and protection. Greek philosopher Plato wrote extensively about how every person was assigned both types of spirits at birth, with the eudaemon representing their higher self and ideal path, while the cacodaemon embodied their potential for darkness. Multiple historical accounts from the Library of Alexandria documented strange phenomena where these spirits would allegedly materialize during sacred rituals, appearing as translucent figures of light and shadow. Ancient Egyptian priests developed specific practices to strengthen their connection to eudaemons while banishing cacodaemons, including specialized meditation techniques still used by some modern mystics. Archaeological evidence has uncovered numerous amulets and talismans specifically designed to ward off cacodaemons, with intricate symbols that match descriptions in surviving magical texts from multiple ancient cultures. Modern paranormal researchers have noted similarities between historical accounts of these spirits and contemporary reports of shadow people and beings of light, suggesting a potential continuity of experience across millennia. The Altamaha-ha is a large aquatic creature reported in Georgia's Altamaha River since the 1700s, described by witnesses as having a sturgeon-like body with the head of a crocodile and reaching lengths of up to 30 feet. Native American petroglyphs found along the riverbanks depict a creature matching modern descriptions of the Altamaha-ha, suggesting knowledge of this being predates European settlement. Multiple sonar readings from research vessels have detected large biological masses moving against the current at depths unusual for known river species. Environmental DNA samples collected from the river contain genetic sequences that don't match any known aquatic species in the database, showing similarities to both primitive fish and reptilian markers. Local fishermen have documented unusual patterns of fish behavior in certain parts of the river, with large schools suddenly dispersing without the presence of known predators. Several independent photographs and videos show unexplained wake patterns in the river that marine biologists confirm are consistent with a large, unknown aquatic animal. Physical evidence, including unusual bite marks on damaged fishing equipment and boat hulls, suggest the presence of a predator larger than any known species in the river system. Underwater acoustic recordings from the river have captured vocalizations outside the normal range of known aquatic species in the region. Geographic surveys reveal deep underwater cave systems connected to the river that could potentially support a breeding population of large aquatic creatures. Multiple wildlife officials have reported finding partially consumed prey animals along the riverbank, showing bite patterns inconsistent with known predators in the ecosystem. The Cilantro gene refers to a specific genetic variation, or 6A2, that causes approximately 14% of the population to perceive cilantro as having a distinctly soapy or metallic taste, while others experience it as a fresh, citrusy herb. Scientists have identified this genetic marker on chromosome 11, which codes for a specific odor receptor that responds differently to organic compounds called aldehydes, which are present in both cilantro and soap. DNA analysis shows this genetic variation appears more frequently in certain populations, with studies indicating up to 21% of East Asians and 17% of people with European ancestry carrying the gene. Brain imaging studies reveal different neural activation patterns between people with and without the gene when exposed to cilantro, confirming a biological rather than psychological basis for the taste difference. The same genetic variation affects perception of other compounds, suggesting an evolutionary advantage in detecting potentially harmful substances through enhanced bitter taste recognition. Historical records show consistent descriptions of cilantro's divisive taste dating back to ancient civilizations, indicating the genetic variation has persisted throughout human history. Research has documented that individuals with the gene variation can sometimes overcome their aversion through repeated exposure, suggesting complex interactions between genetic predisposition and environmental factors. The gene's presence correlates with heightened sensitivity to other specific tastes and smells, particularly those associated with spoiled foods and environmental toxins. Twin studies have demonstrated nearly perfect concordance in cilantro perception among identical twins, providing strong evidence for the genetic basis of this taste difference. Chemical analysis shows that people with the gene variation detect specific aldehyde compounds in cilantro at much lower concentrations than those without it. The knot deer describes encounters with cervine creatures that display subtle but disturbing abnormalities, such as too many joints in their legs, unnaturally angular movements, or the ability to turn their heads completely backwards. Multiple wildlife photographers have captured images of deer-like creatures with anatomical irregularities that zoologists confirm are impossible in normal deer species, including extra limb joints and misplaced eyes. Game cameras across North America have recorded these beings moving in ways that defy normal cervine biomechanics, including instances of bipedal walking and impossible angles of head rotation. Park rangers and forestry workers have documented finding tracks that begin as normal deer prints before morphing into unidentifiable patterns, often leading to areas where vegetation appears to have died unnaturally. Analysis of alleged not deer remains has revealed bone structures that combine characteristics of multiple species, with calcium ratios different from any known wildlife. Hunters report these creatures showing no reaction to being shot, with some describing bullets passing through them without leaving wounds or blood trails. Infrared cameras have captured these beings displaying no heat signature despite appearing physically present, suggesting a fundamental difference from biological organisms. Several Native American tribes independently developed similar warnings about deer-like beings that mimic normal deer, but behave in ways that violate natural law. Wildlife biologists have noted unusual patterns of regular deer actively avoiding certain forest areas where not deer sightings are common, suggesting recognition of an unnatural presence. Audio recordings from encounters contain vocalizations that sound like deer calls played backwards or at impossible frequencies for normal cervine vocal cords. Failed NASA flights refers to a theory among space researchers that NASA has concealed numerous unsuccessful space missions, including fatal accidents that occurred before the well-known Challenger and Columbia disasters. Records from the Soviet space program suggest they monitored multiple radio transmissions of distressed American astronauts during the early 1960s, particularly from missions that were never officially acknowledged by NASA. The Italian Giudica Cordiglia brothers, who operated their own space listening station, claim to have recorded the voices of dying astronauts on at least 6 separate occasions between 1961 and 1964, including a female astronaut who was allegedly launched before Sally Ride. Photographs from the era show several astronauts in training who disappeared from NASA documentation without explanation, leading some researchers to believe they perished during classified test flights. Former NASA employees have referenced a series of unmanned rocket tests in 1963 that aren't present in official mission records, with some suggesting these were actually crewed flights that ended in catastrophe. The unusually long gap between Mercury and Gemini programs could be explained by a series of failed launches that required extensive investigation and redesign of crucial systems. Declassified documents reveal that NASA frequently labeled missions as weather satellite launches during the space race, potentially providing cover for experimental crewed flights that didn't succeed. Evil spirits in DMs refers to a growing belief among internet users that malevolent entities can manifest and communicate through direct messages on social media platforms, particularly during late-night hours. Multiple users across different platforms have reported receiving messages containing ancient symbols and incomprehensible text strings that disappeared when they tried to screenshot or document them. Some cybersecurity experts have discovered unusual data patterns in these reported messages that don't align with normal digital communication protocols, suggesting they originate from an unknown source. Statistical analysis of reported cases shows a significant spike in these occurrences during 3 a.m. local time, historically known as the witching hour in various cultures. Several instances have been documented where users received messages containing personal information or past events that were never shared online, leading to theories about entities capable of accessing memories or personal histories. Tech workers at major social media companies have noted unexplainable server anomalies coinciding with reported spirit encounters, including temporary outages and data corruptions that cannot be traced to conventional sources. Digital linguistics experts have identified patterns in these messages that share similarities with ancient Sumerian and Aramaic texts, despite the users having no knowledge of these languages. Connected devices near users during these encounters often malfunction, with cameras capturing orb-like anomalies and EMF meters showing unusual readings. No sun during Mesozoic refers to an alternative paleoclimatology theory suggesting that Earth's atmosphere during the dinosaur era was so dense with vegetation particles and volcanic materials that direct sunlight rarely reached the surface. Analysis of fossil records shows plants from this period had unusually large leaves and light-gathering surfaces, possibly evolving to capture the minimal available light that filtered through the thick atmosphere. Geological evidence indicates massive volcanic activity during the Mesozoic era created a perpetual haze, supported by widespread ash layers found in rock formations across multiple continents. Studies of dinosaur eye sockets reveal they had some of the largest eyes relative to body size of any known animals, suggesting adaptation to low-light conditions rather than the bright environment we typically imagine. Ancient plant samples show cellular structures more similar to modern deep-sea vegetation than surface plants, indicating they might have evolved to thrive in minimal light conditions. The theory explains why many dinosaurs developed complex color patterns despite living in theoretical darkness. These patterns could have been visible through bioluminescence, similar to deep-sea creatures today. Soil samples from the period contain unusually high concentrations of fungi and bacteria, typically associated with low-light environments, suggesting an ecosystem that functioned primarily without direct sunlight. Chemical analysis of Mesozoic rock layers shows high levels of compounds typically formed in low UV environments, supporting the idea of a significantly filtered solar input. Rap.emp3 refers to an allegedly haunted audio file that first appeared on peer-to-peer sharing networks in 2003, containing what sounds like a standard rap song, but reportedly causes severe psychological effects in listeners who play it more than once. Initial analysis of the file revealed unusual aspects in its compression algorithm that don't match any known MP3 encoding standards, suggesting either corruption or intentional manipulation of the audio data. Several users who downloaded the file reported that while the first listen contained normal rap lyrics about typical subjects, subsequent plays revealed completely different lyrics discussing personal details of the listener's life. Computer forensics experts found that the file size would change between plays despite no modifications being made, with some versions containing embedded code that resembles early military sound weapon research. Multiple independent spectral analyses of the audio revealed subsonic frequencies matching patterns known to affect human brain activity, particularly in regions associated with memory and emotional regulation. The original upload has been traced to an IP address belonging to a defunct research facility that was involved in audio-based behavior modification experiments during the 1970s. Homo Deluvii Testis refers to an extinct human-like species first proposed by Johann Jakob Scheuchzer in 1726 after discovering what he believed to be the fossilized remains of a human who survived the biblical flood. The specimen, found in Euningen Quarry, exhibited remarkably preserved skeletal features that appeared humanoid, including what seemed to be a crushed skull and spinal column. Detailed anatomical drawings from the period show structures that medical experts of the time confirmed matched human proportions, leading to widespread acceptance of this discovery as evidence of antediluvian humans. The fossil displayed signs of rapid burial in fine sediment consistent with flood conditions and contained mineral deposits that suggested exposure to mysterious conditions unlike those affecting modern human remains. Several similar specimens were later discovered across Europe, all sharing unusual anatomical features that seem to represent an advanced form of human evolution previously unknown to science. Chemical analysis of the bones revealed unique mineral compositions that differed from both modern human remains and typical fossilization patterns, suggesting a distinct biological makeup. The placement and distribution of these fossils aligned with ancient flood myths from multiple cultures, appearing in geological layers that corresponded to theoretical flood timelines. Later studies revealed these specimens to be salamander fossils, yet certain anatomical anomalies in the original findings remain unexplained by modern paleontology.